Microsoft just opened up the Xbox checkbook yet again. Microsoft is in the mood to spend some money, and so they did, but we don't know how much. So we're going to dive into this, not going to bury the lead here. Microsoft is buying Smash.gg. Now, you may or may not heard of this, but this is a website designed for community platforming and basically esports management and arrangement, and Microsoft is officially buying that website. We don't know for how much, but it's definitely not like a Bethesda-style acquisition where it was $7 billion or $7.5 billion or any of those other big expensive things, because we know that if it is a lot of money, like legally Microsoft has to tell us if it's what's called a material statement or a material event. They have to actually say, hey, like this is how much money we're pushing out the door, as with Bethesda. And so, it's not that style, but let's just sort of talk about through this. Microsoft has been buying a lot of stuff here, a lot of like gaming related studios. And now we're starting to see them to move more into like that esports area with this acquisition. And officially Smash.gg was founded in 2015 as a software to improve Smash and fighting games experiences for organizers, streamers, players, and spectators overall. The app lets organizers host and support tournaments with features such as registration, brackets, rankings, and competitions. And so that is verbatim how they actually described themselves when they were initially founded. And so that is the idea that Microsoft is buying into here. This is a community-driven place where you can go and host these tournaments. Now, Microsoft is starting to dabble in the esports world. So with this acquisition, not that they haven't been before, but esports can make a lot of money in many different ways. One, like the physical venues, like when we can actually sit next to each other. That's one way. Just merch is another big deal. There's professional sports teams like 100 Thieves, and there's just tons of many others. Ironically, somewhat, ESPN, I think, announced a couple days ago that they're shutting down some of their esports coverage, but whatever. There's a lot in there. And actually, according to one report that I read, it said it was expecting $1 billion in revenue generated from esports in 2020. And so it's not small. Like esport is one of those things. Yes, it's not as big as like the NFL or the NBA or Formula One, but it's definitely not something that you can ignore. And Microsoft appears to be trying to get in on the ground floor a little bit early. Now, we already know there's tons of major tournaments. Like there's League of Legends tournaments, there's Fortnite tournaments, there's the Overwatch World Cup, and these are massive events. Massive events. I don't think Microsoft is quite ready to go that big and that big of a home run yet, but they definitely recognize that, hey, like the amateur style tournament organizations and just smaller competitive local events, they need platforms. And what does Microsoft love to do? They love to be platform companies. They love software as a service. And so a platform like Smash.gg fits right into what they are doing, which is why Microsoft is officially acquiring the company. And Smash is saying that nothing is really going to change on their platform, just now that they have a whole bunch more resources to help build this stuff out. And obviously, this is not Microsoft's first venture into non-gaming studio, but gaming related acquisitions. Now, we all know about Mixer, and then there's also things like PlayFab, and there's been some other smaller ones along the way. But obviously, Mixer, we salute you, Mixer. It is gone and it's not coming back. But this one will be interesting because it's not so much game streaming, but it's game management. And maybe that Microsoft is looking at this and saying, hey, that's an area that needs a lot of help. Interestingly enough, Xbox Live sort of already has a tournament feature, and candidly, I've not used this, I think, since it was announced back in 2016. You can host tournaments on Xbox Live. Now, and honestly, I don't even know if it's still there. It was buried inside of the club feature. So you had to join a club, and then you could do a tournament inside of that, all through the Xbox app on a PC or potentially even on the console. But because I realistically think I haven't heard too much about it, I'm guessing that either A, it wasn't very well used, wasn't very well implemented, or just people just honestly just didn't care and never really touched it. So this kind of brings us, full circle of Microsoft has a whole bunch of gaming content. They know that gaming platforms and everything else is exploding right now, especially with everybody being stuck at home and gaming increasing. And they're looking for ways to expand the narrative of their gaming related assets. Yes, having great titles is one thing. Yes, having great consoles is another. But being able to stretch the boundaries of where the Xbox brand, or just in general their gaming tentacles, can reach is a huge thing for a company like Microsoft, because they can keep investing in dollars into gaming titles, and they're going to keep doing that. But by having more vertical and horizontal avenues of spreading out their gaming related assets allows them to effectively rake in more money, potentially, if that's their, that's that's always going to be their narrative at the end of the day, because hey, you're in the business of making money. And I digress. So where will Microsoft take with this? I would expect them to start investing heavily in. If you go look at the site now, it's pretty bare bones. There's a lot of management features on the back end. I'd also expect to start seeing Microsoft starting to push this, right? They're going to start pushing this because esports is, I would honestly argue, much bigger for the PC, which is a place that Microsoft has a very strong foothold on the PC, right? They make Windows, and while they're not Steam, they do make Windows, and that's where all these things run. And if they can get the organizational aspects while people playing other games, that is again another win for Microsoft in that gaming community. And so this is Microsoft starting to look more seriously at this. I'll be curious to see how much deeper they're willing to go into esports teams. I don't know if would they start to sponsor a team. I mean, that would holistically sponsor a team that's, based out of Seattle, like the Seattle Softwares. That would be a terrible name, but you know what? It works. Maybe Microsoft will build the Seattle Software esports team and start being competitive. I don't think so. I don't think they're going to go first party like that, but they're definitely going to be potentially working and or sponsoring more esports teams, and then getting those teams to organize all of their stuff through Smash.gg. Now, the next question here is will Microsoft rename Smash.gg? Are they truly just trying to buy the platform, or are they also trying to buy the brand? While Smash.gg is a little bit, generic, anybody who's been around for a while will know what it means. Like what, let's go play Smash. We all know what that actually means. So I could see Microsoft potentially trying to rebrand it, much like they did, what was Mixer called? Like something Beam.pro, I believe is what it was, before Microsoft then put some money into it and then bought Mixer.com. And then here we are, a couple years later, and Mixer is completely gone from the conversation. All this being said, Microsoft is not done making acquisition. Phil Spencer even talked about this. He said, hey, when the time is right and when the product is right and when the title is right, we will absolutely make an acquisition. Now, initially, he was talking about more casual style games, things like in the Minecraft style genre. This is obviously a little bit outside. This is more of like the logistical backend sort of functionality of the gaming world, which again, Microsoft is very clearly willing to spend money. They've got, I think it was over $180 billion in the bank. Don't quote me on that, but that's what I vaguely recall from their last earnings statement. And so they're putting more of that capital to work right now. We have no idea what the financials look like of Smash GG. It was very much a smaller operation. It was not it was not a studio producing a title where it was extremely capital intensive. I would imagine running Smash.gg wasn't overly expensive, but it definitely cost some money. I mean, nothing is free in this world. So we'll see what Microsoft does here. I think this is one of the more interesting acquisitions. Don't get me wrong. Bethesda is a really cool one, but we all know what that's like. This is where Microsoft is venturing out from that gaming vertical and starting to get that holistic end, circle of life. I could insert the music there if I had the copyrights for it. The circle of life of the gaming narrative, if you will, with the, you start with the tournament, they host a tournament, and then you own the platforms and you own that whole life cycle of the experience. We will find out. Anyways, that is the big news. Microsoft is acquiring Smash.gg. It is not another big title. It's not Sega. People were thinking Microsoft is still going to buy Sega. Heck, I still thought it at one point, but it doesn't sound like that's going to happen. At least that's not what they're announcing today. So to keep updated on everything Microsoft is doing in the Xbox world, in the gaming world, and everything else Microsoft does, hit that subscribe button, ring a bell if you whatever, and we'll catch all of you right back here next time.